To Murraysville, Pennsylvania, Tom Ricketts going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And one thing you know with Chuck Noll there, he's going to learn how to trap block. If he doesn't already know that, he's going to learn how to trap block, right?
Well, the other thing, too, is John Kolb is there, and John Kolb is responsible for making Louis Lips, for example, a stronger athlete who was able to play the entire year. John Kolb will take anything and make it bigger and stronger. If you can imagine Ricketts getting bigger and stronger, it'll happen in Pittsburgh, which is really the home of the big arms and big defensive and offensive linemen.
It's their trademark.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can think of Mike Webster, of course, is no longer there. Now he's going to play one more year with the Chiefs. But Ricketts, I mean, it's not your classic trap blocking size guy, but he'll learn.
You are exactly right. It is something that you will do every 2 or 3 plays in Pittsburgh, is learn to trap block.
He's going to be blocking for Tim Worley, among others. He was the other first-round selection of the Steelers. We have 4 picks left in the first round. The Bears choose again, the Rams choose again, then Cincinnati, then San Francisco. Memories abound from draft day. We heard Joe and Tommy before. This is what Keith Byers remembers about his draft day. We'll be back.
I remember the draft starts at like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was up by 5:30, 6 o'clock, you know, just anticipating where I was going to go. And when I was 10th player picked by the Philadelphia Eagles, you know, that was one of the happiest days in my life, in my professional career. And I springboarded for the rest of my career, and it's an experience that I always remember for the rest of my life.
This report details new opportunities.
San Diego, but Keith, Eric DeLong is his son. Keith DeLong, Steve's son, is in this draft. Let's talk about the fact that we've been spending some time with Robert Massey. Small college athletes, they do well in the defensive secondary, though. You see a lot of them go early in the NFL draft.
They do well, Bob, because they play basically man coverage at the small colleges. And you're talking about a guy like Massey who will be able to come right in and help a team, whereas at the major college level, they're basically playing that zone defense. So it takes a while for cornerbacks at the major college level a lot of times to come right in. But small college corners have as good a shot as anybody of playing right away in the NFL.
You know, Robert Massey sitting and waiting at the home of his agent in Durham, North Carolina. Hi, guys. Jimmy Roberts spending some time with him, and they're waiting to see when that phone will ring. Not with just an inquiry, how do you do kind of phone call, would you like to play with us, but with the news that indeed he has been selected. So the Massey family and some other clients of Robert's agent are awaiting that phone call. And a lot of phone calls are just, as we said, how do you do phone calls, and as Joe talked about, you can burst that emotional bubble. We have seen 6 offensive linemen taken so far in the top 24 selections, and year in and year out you begin to see maybe a run develops. Maybe player personnel guys begin to think, well, here comes the avalanche. I better make my move now if I'm going to get the guy I want.
That's true, Bob. We have a couple guys still there. We have a Ralph Norwood from LSU, a Bob Cratch from Iowa, and a guy like Doug Waddell from Boston College. But I think the key position in this draft is there's a lot of quality at wide receivers still there. Sean Collins, Lawyer Tillman, Derek Hill, some great players.
We might have a trade. It looks complicated up there. We've had one trade already today between Denver and Cleveland. Let's get the particulars now.
The Bears are up now. However, they trade their first pick in the first round, this pick, to Miami for Miami's 2nd and 3rd choices in this draft. So the Bears now have Miami's 2nd and 3rd, and Miami has the current choice.
And Miami's on the clock with 8 minutes to go. That will give another pick, which would be, what, 21 selections in this draft for Chicago.
We had Louis Oliver going there with the
maybe he's
9th
going.
pick, and he would make a lot of sense here, obviously, and would fill that need that we talked about opposite Jarvis Williams.
Louis Oliver, defensive back, Florida.
Miami with a need for defense. First time around.
Next up, Los Angeles Rams on a trade previously acquired from Buffalo.
The Rams are up next. First time through, the Dolphins took Sammy Smith, and you heard all the second-guessing beginning. But then Don Shula's organization making that trade. The Bears pick up a 2nd and 3rd round selection. Louis Oliver is a first-rounder. He's going to move downstate. This is a young man who is fast, who has power, who has 4.3 speed. Was a walk-on originally, became a starter as a sophomore, hits like an offensive, or I should say an outside linebacker, and has coverage of a cornerback speed.
One thing we talked about, Bob, when Don Shula was evaluating the Super Bowl with Cincinnati and San Francisco, all he talked about was David Fulcher and the impact that he was having with the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you compare Oliver to Fulcher, Oliver's as big but a lot faster. The interesting thing with Miami, if they would have taken Oliver with the 8th pick, they could have come back with this choice and not had to worry about it. You're talking about trading up in the second round. They might have been able to get a Robert Drummond, the running back from Syracuse. So you have to question Miami's situation. I still don't like the Sammy Smith pick, but I think Shula was aggressive here, saw a great player slide through, and did what he had to do to acquire that pick from Chicago. And Louis Oliver will be a great addition to the Miami Dolphins next year. I think a much better addition than Sammy Smith. And like I said earlier, they wouldn't have had to give up anything at all if they would have taken Oliver early and waited for their second-round pick and get a Robert Drummond or a Lewis Tillman with that pick.
All right, back in 65, as we said, the Bears had 3 selections. They exercised all 3. Only 2 players ended up playing for them. And here in 1989, they have 3 picks. They used 2, trade 1 to Miami. Chicago will pick now with the 36th selection in the draft. That is Miami's second-round pick, the 8-hole in the second round. So they move themselves down about 7 or 8 picks. So let's see what's happening. Louis Oliver, finally, Andrea Kramer, has been selected, and yes, he is a first-round player.
Well, a little bit later than he may have expected, but 25th is at least in the first round. How do you feel about this? Miami is where you grew up, at least staying home. Is that a good sign?
Oh, yeah, it gives me a chance to be home and be close to my relatives and things like that. So I'm pretty glad that they picked me and chose me in the first round. I think I would have gone crazy if I would have slipped into the second round.
They were certainly aggressive in getting you. I mean, it's almost as though Don Shula got his big back early, and now he wanted his big defensive back, and he certainly moved aggressively to do that.
Well, I just got a call about 2 minutes ago, and he called me and told me that they were trading up with Chicago and that they were going to take me. So I said, go ahead.
You're not as excited, though, as if it had happened sooner. Just the disappointment, obviously, it may subside once you get into a mini camp or go back down to Miami.
I'm disappointed because I didn't feel like that there were that many other guys that were better than me. And once I slipped past 13 pick, I thought I would have been gone by then. But now I'm just getting picked. But I'm happy to know that I made it in the first round, but I'm still disappointed.
Did you say anything to the Dolphins about why they may have thought you lasted so long?
No, they didn't ask me any questions. I just told Coach Shula. He told me when he called, he said, well, you passed every drug test that we know of, and you didn't refuse any test that we know of. And I just told him it was some stupid rumor, and he just told me that they were going to pick me as their pick.
Well, you may be calm. Your parents are certainly happy here. And let's go right now to Pete Axthelm at the Bears.
Thank you, Andrea. You know, these rumors that come up around draft time remind me of several things. One athlete several years ago that rumors were rampant about was Wilbur Marshall, only helped the Bears to a Super Bowl. Another one, and I brought this name up once before in the program, was a guy who had a terrible senior year at Pittsburgh. Don Shula made his phone calls, did his homework, took the scouts' advice and his friends' advice, and took Dan Marino. Might be a good move. Let's go back to New York.
All right, Axe, thank you. And so Louis Oliver, we finally found a home for him in the Miami Dolphins. And here's a guy, well, on one hand, Tommy, he lasted till late in the first round, but still went to a team that's kind of rebuilding. That's not fair.
Well, we sat here and we speculated on the fact that if you go later in the first round, you were going to make up some of your money because you were going to get with a playoff football team. Now, here Oliver has gone to a team that is not doing really well. They will be going through some rebuilding, but I'm just glad to see him get in that first round as he is, again, a super athlete. And talk about tenacity. I think the rest of the league may get a little extra tenacity from Louis Oliver as his career goes on.
Yeah, think about the draft. It's beginning in September. It doesn't matter where you were drafted. Right. You can play. Joe, and you thought that the Bears might get rid of one of those first choices.
I think they had to. I think basically you're talking about the story of economics for the Chicago Bears. They're not going to pay 3 first-round draft choices, although they picked up a defensive lineman and a defensive back, not going to have to pay him as much money as you would one of the skill positions on offense. It's a good move for the Bears. They pick up a couple more choices like they need them like new shirts. They've got 1,000 of them out in their closet, and they're just picking them up now. I really believe that Louis Oliver should be very happy being in Miami. He is in a situation where he can help that football team right away. I would project him as a starter today, right now. As soon as they open minicamp, Louis Oliver becomes my starting free safety, which is the other thing you have to consider. All those teams that drafted ahead of Miami in this draft really weren't in need of a free safety. Denver needed the strong safety with Atwater. Corners were needed, but the free safety was sort of like, where are we going to fit him in? He's at a place where he'll fit in and help right now.
Yeah, defensive. Let's, Paul Zimmerman has rejoined us. Why Oliver and Rice and lasting so long? Have you figured it out yet?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use words like this. I'm quoting the scouts. Rise, and they said character. And I said, what does that mean? And they said, well, there are questions. I said, what questions? They said, well, his attitude.